Modern warfare can destroy a state in days. Capital overrun, military shattered, government in exile. Ukraine showed how fast collapse happens. Now we are counting down 5 states most vulnerable to that same fate, nations on hostile borders and narrow choke points where a single point of failure means total collapse. We begin at number 5, with 2 countries whose survival hinges on a tunnel and a 30-kilometer strip of road. In the 5th place, Moldova and Georgia stand on the edge of survival, each at the mercy of a single strip of infrastructure. For Moldova, the fate of the state can hinge on the Transnistrian corridor, a mere 30 kilometers of rail and road running through a Russian-backed enclave. With just 6,000 troops, barely 0.2% of the population, Moldova faces not only the presence of over 2,100 Russian soldiers and a stockpile of 20,000 tons of Soviet-era ammunition at Kubazna, but also relentless hybrid pressure, cyber attacks, propaganda, and internal subversion. The corridor itself acts as a knife at the country's throat. If seized or blocked, it would sever Chisinau from Western supply lines and force any government retreat toward Romania. Despite European Union and NATO partnership for peace aid, about 200 million euros in non-lethal equipment, and a Romanian logistics corridor, Moldova's neutrality and lack of binding defense guarantees leave it exposed to rapid isolation and occupation. Georgia, with a larger force of 45,000, faces a different but equally crippling bottleneck, the Rocky Tunnel. Carved through the Caucasus Mountains, this 3.7-kilometer tunnel is the only all-weather route connecting Russia to South Ossetia. During the 2008 war, the Georgian 4th Infantry Brigade's night march through the tunnel brought just 6 to 8 hours before Russian reinforcements poured in. The tunnel's limited capacity, about 30 tons per hour, means a determined enemy can choke off the capital, Tbilisi, in a matter of hours if the pass is lost. United States and NATO support exists on paper, with training and some advanced weapons, but no permanent Allied presence on the ground. For both Moldova and Georgia, geography is destiny. A single corridor or tunnel, if lost, can bring down the whole state before treaties or reinforcements even come into play. In the 4th place, Armenia faces a battlefield transformed by technology, where traditional defenses are outmatched by the reality of drone warfare. The 2023 collapse in Nagorno-Karabakh exposed the sharp edge of this vulnerability. Azerbaijan's fleet of more than 40 Bayraktar TB2 drones now patrols the skies, each capable of tracking, targeting, and striking Armenian positions with precision munitions. Against this, Armenia fields only 3 S-300 air defense batteries, aging Soviet-era systems with limited ability to detect or intercept low-flying, maneuverable UAVs. The imbalance is not just numerical, it is psychological. Soldiers and civilians alike describe the constant hum of drones overhead as a source of dread, fueling a spike in desertions and a sense that the front line could evaporate at any moment. Armenia's manpower ceiling hovers around 45,000 active troops, but even this force is hamstrung by the lack of effective counter-UAV technology and the absence of reliable external support. Russia's CSTO alliance, once seen as a backstop, has proven limited. Moscow declined direct intervention in 2023, citing logistical constraints. The Zangezur corridor, a strip just 17 kilometers wide, now serves as a fragile supply and retreat route. If sealed, it would sever Armenian logistics and force any government evacuation toward the Turkish border. Monthly, Armenia faces over 100 cyber incursions, further eroding command and control. In this environment, the advantage of mountain terrain and defensive lines is eroded by persistent surveillance and precision strikes, making rapid military collapse a real possibility. For Armenia, the drone gap is not just a tactical disadvantage, it is the axis on which state survival now turns. In the 3rd place, Kosovo stands as a textbook case of legal legitimacy masking a profound strategic fragility. The Kosovo Security Force fields just 7,000 troops, lightly equipped and lacking heavy armor or air defense. Their main shield is not domestic strength, but the presence of 1,400 NATO-led KFOR troops, an international force whose mandate is defined by UN Security Council Resolution 1244. This legal framework grants KFOR the authority to defend civilians and maintain order, but bars offensive operations against regular Serbian forces unless authorized by a separate UN resolution. In practice, this means Kosovo's ability to repel a determined incursion is severely limited by rules of engagement set far from Pristina. Nowhere is this vulnerability more acute than in North Mitrovica, where 50,000 ethnic Serbs live in an enclave separated by politics, language, and allegiance. The E65 and E75 highways cut through this region, forming a flashpoint that has repeatedly erupted into crisis. The riots of May 2023, triggered by a vehicle registration dispute, left 40% of protesters injured, a stark reminder of how quickly civil unrest can overwhelm both local police and the KSF. KFOR's response was measured, non-lethal rounds and tear gas, but no live fire, reflecting the political risk of escalation and the limits imposed by international law. Kosovo's dependence on foreign protection is absolute. Without KFOR, the KSF would be outmatched by any Serbian-backed incursion, and the state's survival would hinge on the speed and willingness of NATO and the EU to intervene. Unlike the Baltic states, Kosovo lacks the binding guarantees of Article 5, leaving its fate subject to political calculation in Brussels and Washington. In this environment, even a small foreign force becomes the thin line between order and collapse. In the second place, the Baltic states, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, face the stark reality that even NATO's strongest guarantees can be undermined by geography. The Suwałki Gap, a corridor just 65 kilometers wide, is the only land route connecting the Baltics to the rest of the alliance. If this narrow strip between Belarus and the Russian exclave of Kaliningrad is sealed, three capitals, Tallinn, Riga, and Vilnius, would be cut off from ground reinforcement, leaving their fate to a race against the clock. On paper, the numbers seem reassuring. Each country maintains a standing force. Estonia with 6,500 troops, Latvia with 6,200, and Lithuania with 6,800. NATO's enhanced forward presence adds another 5,000 multinational soldiers, supported by 4 Patriot and 4 NASAMS air defense batteries. Yet, these figures mask a deeper vulnerability. War games run by Polish and Baltic defense colleges consistently show that Russian mechanized units could close the Suwałki Gap in as little as 6 to 12 hours. In that window, the destruction or capture of just 3 key bridges across the Narew, Daugava, and Nemunas rivers would halt Allied convoys and sever the logistics chain. NATO's rapid reaction plans call for bridge repair teams, integrated air policing, and the airlift of reinforcements within 24 to 48 hours. But the margin for error is razor thin. In the event of a full-scale invasion, the survival of the Baltic states would hinge not on the size of their armies or the presence of Allied troops, but on whether a handful of bridges and a single corridor can be kept open long enough for help to arrive. The Suwałki Gap is more than a bottleneck. It is the test of NATO's credibility and the alliance's ability to prevent the political and military isolation of its most exposed members. Taiwan's survival depends on a fragile balance of technology, geography, and alliances. The island's 23.5 million residents rely on a military force of 215,000, but across the strait, the People's Liberation Army has amassed 1,500 short-range ballistic missiles, each able to strike airbases, ports, and command centers within minutes. In a 2022 Ministry of National Defense cyber drill, a simulated missile and cyber barrage disabled 30% of Taiwan's command and control network in just half an hour. Malware severed air defense links, while ransomware froze regional command hubs, exposing how quickly decision-making could unravel under real attack. Taiwan's vulnerability isn't just military. The island produces 60% of the world's advanced semiconductors, with TSMC's 5 major fabs alone driving $400 billion annual market. These chips are essential for everything from data centers to fighter jets, making any disruption a global crisis. Taiwan's air defenses, about 40 launchers, including Patriot PAC-3, Skybow, and Tiancheng batteries, are networked for interception, but remain outnumbered by PLA salvos. Allied plans highlight the urgency. At the April 2023 summit, the US, Japan, and the Philippines agreed to pre-position fuel and missile stockpiles in Okinawa and Luzon, aiming for a 12-hour response window. Yet, if a PLA missile and cyber offensive paralyzes command before reinforcements arrive, Taiwan's government and semiconductor lifeline could collapse or be forced offshore. The world's tech supply chain hangs on whether a modern democracy can withstand the opening shock of war without immediate, massive intervention. Across all these exposed states, one truth stands out. In modern warfare, survival depends less on armies and more on geography, alliances, and infrastructure. A single choke point or absent ally can erase a nation in days. Today, statehood is more fragile and more conditional than ever before.